What is up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Oxygen Not Included Cesspool. So, I did some things off camera. Okay, number one, let's scroll down here. I finally got the pitcher peppermints growing properly. So, I set up some more of these temp chef plates. I went ahead and got the liquid tepidizer going, hooked it up, and this system is working phenomenally, keeping this room at a perfect 110 degrees. Got the thermostat set up in here, and all I have to do to change the temperature is change both thermostats, and boom, it'll change the temperature. So 110 degrees is perfect. Once it reaches the temperature, this thing shuts off and it turns off the pump. Pump pumps water through here through a radiant pipe, pumps it back into here. So this is a good system for heating up something. Take some liquid, you heat it up, and you transfer it. And this was a lot of water, by the way. We did get a lot of water made, and I've used and refilled that thing multiple times now. Why is there regular water in here? Okay, we need to fix that. There should not be regular water in here. That will literally screw up everything. A lot of regular water in here? No. Okay. Turn this pump off for a second. There we go. Extract those pipes. Wait for somebody to come do it. Plumbing seals. Eventually. Well, there, the sun goes just up cleaning away. Not sure why he has popped eardrums, though. We shouldn't have been in an environment where that would be an issue. You can actually cancel that though. I'm okay with the water being in here. She probably came from somewhere anyway. Now let's go ahead and have them do... There we go. And that'll pump the water back to their designated locations. Now that we've only got water in here, we hook up that pipe. There we go. Alright, so as I was saying, we've been working on some stuff off camera. Some water in here too. My brine collection room. We're going to take care of that. And I've gotten a few new duplicates. I'm up to 11 now. But outside of this, I set up a few new things. Number one, I got rid of this water tank up here, and I rerouted the water system, and now it works much more efficiently. We got our power situation completely sorted for a while. Eventually, we'll probably need to get some more stuff, but right now we're doing great, and I'll explain how. Actually, take this part. Alright. Gathered up a shitload of natural gas, we're up to 6.5 tons of it, so those guys are going strong. I also set up a Rodriguez gas pump system with a cooling loop running through it. I ran this cooling loop that we set up before through it to cool it down, and now it cools down the oxygen to a nice 60 degrees. It cools it down to a nice 60 degrees, and this pumps it out. It uses an atmos sensor to make sure there's plenty of pressure, and a temperature system to make sure that it's not the right temperature through an AND gate, and it regulates the temperature. The reason why it's way over here is because this is a pressure pump, so it can actually suck up enough gas to reach right here at its furthest extent. So I wanted to make sure this stuff stayed in the gas. And I've got a gas pipe running through the entire base, pumping in oxygen. I even removed the gas pump and ran the oxygen into here. So the base is fully oxygenated. All the atmospheres have plenty of oxygen. We've reached max pressure. Oh, and I rerouted the natural gas here, so that way it prioritizes this tank first, and then I hooked it up to the gas range, which we've been making, yeah, stuffed berries, which has a +4 morale, which I think is freaking awesome, by the way. So they've been eating stuffed berries, which has increased their morale tremendously, so stress is way down. So we got this working, we got the gas range working, we got this rerouted, we've been producing loads of hydrogen. Look at that. We got a pretty good supply of it here. It stays out pretty well, and this keeps the base powered for the most part. This is self-powering, by the way. I didn't mention that yet. I did not hook this up to the power grid. It is self-powered. At one point I had it hooked up. I needed to deconstruct those pipes, and I have this hooked up here just because this can't generate enough power with two of them to run this stuff and this pump, so I have that set up separately. But yeah, it's self-powering. It keeps itself going without any issue whatsoever. In fact, we're building up some hydrogen on the side. This will take ages to fill up, so we're not too worried about that. Our system over here is going good. Obviously, our plants up here are staying nice and cool like they're supposed to now. Our system is self-regulated, and I set up a cooling loop for the base too. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. I set up another steam generator here, and after deconstructing a lot of the stuff I made out of steel, I got shitloads of steel. 50. I got more steel than I got any other metal. It's just freaking ridiculous. Well, except for gold amalgam ore. We did do some mining off camera as well. I mined out this way, and I started building along the very far wall. We're basically going to cap it off to the neutronium, all the way up to the top, all the way down to the bottom. And yeah, so I just wanted to mention that. I'm going to be digging the other direction here soon. And I did finish carving out down here near the lava, or I carved out all the way across left and right. I ended up running into the to a zombie spore plant. Thankfully, I know what they do, so I was very careful about it. Yeah, right here. There's a vacuum in here. I guess this guy consumed it all. But yeah, so these sporochios or whatever they are, they create zombie spores, which is another type of germ. And if the duplicates inhale it, which they should be safe for their suits, but I'm not going to risk it. If they inhale it, it'll turn them basically into zombies. And that's not something you want to deal with. Thankfully, it can't produce zombie spores right now, and it's slowly dying off in the crude oil. But we have to be careful whenever we go to mine all this out, not to let that out. We have to destroy that plant. I have no use for that. Like, I don't even know if there is a use for something like that. Yeah, we showed off the entire lava biome down here, so we got loads of lava to mess with. We're going to be working on a proper steam generator. We're going to need to get all this liquid pumped up as soon as possible too, because we gotta find a storage place for all this crude oil. And that's still going. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I pumped up some polluted water earlier, so that way we'd have some extra because we were running low. But yeah, our base is self-sustaining now. We've reached the point where it's self-sustaining. The power jet needs are being met. The food needs are being met. They're more or less keeping up with food pretty well. They cook up the gristleberries, they mix it with the peppermint and this, and then they get stuffed berries, which makes them incredibly happy. Because that keeps stress way down. Like if I look in skills, look at that freaking morale. 24 morale. Granted, this is a fairly new duplicate. I'm going to give her a few skills too. It'll help her. I think Bahi was fairly new too. Okay. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? We were super hard digging here. Yeah, the morale of these duplicates is ridiculous right now. Like, this is crazy good morale. 200 skill points available. Like, unless our morale was like super high, that wouldn't even do me good. This guy doesn't have any skills. Give him strength and plumbing. Go. There we go. That'll work. give some of my duplicates exosuit training so they can get around a little bit easier. I'll wait on that one. I'd give it to her, but that's really close. Alright, so all my duplicates can now run much faster in the suits. They don't get such a debuff, if they get a debuff at all. I'm noticing something I want to switch out, because I was also having a problem with carbon dioxide building up in here, so I replaced the tiles here with all airflow tiles, so now all the carbon dioxide flows down here, and then the pump dumps it out of the base. Oh, I forgot to mention something I built. It was unnecessary, but I was tired of all the excess gas. There was so much gas out in the environment that I decided we need to contain it. So I built this gas tank, and it holds a metric ton of gas. And the way this tank works, if we scroll down, I have insulated tile, followed by an airflow tile, which doesn't allow liquid to touch it, followed by a shitload of water. That was a pain in the ass to compress into there, but that's to keep any gases from flowing through this into the air tile to push against the insulated tile, so it keeps pressure from building up. Since the water can't touch the airflow tile, it can't pressure up, so the gas will flow into the airflow tile, which doesn't affect the airflow tile, and then it tries to push against the water, and the water doesn't let it. So, yeah, it's a self-containing system. I had a bunch of these extreme pressure vents in here and hooked up a bunch of pumps to regulate the gases in here. So we managed to evacuate a metric ton of gases. I'm trying to think. I think I built... Oh, I ran the cooling loop that cools down the hydrogen and the steam guys are back there. Through these guys. Cool them off because they were starting to get really hot. But check this out. A nice 50 degrees. So these guys don't stay hot, which these guys don't even run half the time. And we, after expanding my hatchling farm here a little bit, we've been generating so much coal, it's ridiculous. So even if we have to switch back to coal at some point, we can. So yay for that. So we're doing really well, guys. And I didn't even realize this earlier, but we have a copper volcano here that we can definitely utilize. In fact, let me see if I can plan a build off camera. Hold on. Alright guys, I'm going to be 100% honest. This was the biggest pain in the ass I've ever dealt with. This took me, I want to say, an hour and a half to set up. And now I'm going to go through complete detail on how to do this. Originally I was going to run my cooling loop through it, but it just wasn't producing it fast enough and it needed its own dedicated cooling. Still need to figure out why that's happening. Okay, so I'm going to explain what I have everything set up. First of all, I have obviously a cooling loop set up right here. So first of all, I have it set up in steam so that way this thing can consume it and set it up. I also have the radiant pipes directly going through it to begin with, so that way this thing is the primary thing being cool. Because if this thing doesn't stay cool, it can't eat the heat. So, I obviously have it all hooked up to my power generation system, so any power generates it will be used. So it cools down the liquid, which I've filled it up with polluted water. And in the loop, first it runs it through obviously the checkpoint where it checks the temperature. If it's not cold enough, it'll send it back in the system to be cooled down. If it is cool enough, it'll send it through the system right here. It'll go through here and it'll cool off this little patch of water here, which isn't super necessary, but it helps with numbers. So then I have a thermal switch saying that if it gets too hot, it's got to shut everything off down in here so it can take some time to cool down. From there, the cooling loop proceeds over here to a big metal tile around the room that goes through here, and it just cools all this hydrogen down as well. this room stays at a nice 5 degrees. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference once we start getting that really hot copper in here, but the colder the better, in my opinion. Hydrogen can contain more, gaseous stuff than anything. I also have a robo miner here because I've noticed that sometimes if it produces too much copper, it will turn into a block if it's cooled down, and this can break it down. And then I also have an auto sweeper and a conveyor loader. From the auto sweeper, it picks up any loose materials, it shoves it in the conveyor loader. Rail block? What? How is that even possible? Alright, come on. I know we're at cycle damn near 500. And it takes you a little longer. Alright guys, so I was working on setting all this up. And it looks like it started to actually emit copper. So... copper is really freaking hot. Pulling down really fast. It looks like it's picking up and not overheating in the process. So. And I added a pressure tank and re-rammed the loop. That was a pain in the ass, by the way. To try to relieve the blockage in our cooling loop. Yeah, it's got to keep cooling down everything because there's so much stuff that I've gathered up that it's just having to clean it all up before it can actually do anything. But that was pretty successful, I'm not going to lie. I think I'm going to fix something though. Okay guys, I simplified the design quite a bit. I took off this section, deleted all this crap, and I switched it out with the cooling loop right here. So, now that it's all properly set up, go in here. Let me just show off what I've done. Okay, first, these guys will pick up the copper that drops from this being so cold that it just drops solid copper. Just fix it in there, and then it runs it through this cooling loop. Once it's below 75 degrees, which is what I have it set to, it'll deposit it right here, somewhere where the duplicates can get it. I could have it automatically exported and transported somewhere. I'll probably get to that eventually. Right now, this is the current design. I've spent so much time on this, guys. It is ridiculous. And so the way it works, now that I've actually got it set up properly, is I have a cooling loop, right? Water runs from this guy, which I've put a bunch of water in. I'm going to put more water in it now. And it feeds off through here into the aqua tuner. If it's too hot, it'll cool it down, run it through here. It'll do a check. If it hasn't cooled down enough, it'll send it back through the loop. It'll send it to this guy, send it back over. And once it's cooled down enough, it'll send it through the loop. First cooling off the item cooler. It'll cool this down, and then it'll send it over here to cool this down. And then the remainder will end up in this storage. Once in this storage, it has an export pipe going over here where it prioritizes the loop first. Once the loop is empty, it'll send in more fluid. So, I want to go ahead and send in a little bit more though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect here and let it feed in some water real quick. I'm gonna send a bunch of that water over here. And just let it send it all. see it erupt in a few seconds. Okay, that's empty. Go ahead and grab the pipe. Wait for it, wait for it. Come on, send it all. All of it in here. Okay, now we'll connect it back up. There we go. And now now it'll cool a lot more of the fluid at once. I might tweak this a little bit more off camera, but that should work pretty well. This will be able to cool a lot more of the fluid. What I could do is I could set up a shut-off, preventing it from pouring too much out. I could set it up right here and then hook it up to this based on the amount. As long as it's at let's say 50%, it'll allow it to process through, but once it gets down to 40%, it'll stop. So that way this thing stays with plenty of fluid in it. It's going to cool it down to 5 degrees before it'll send it out, though. I'll show you all the automation and stuff for this in just a second. Wait for this to finish loading. There we go. Alright, so, automation-wise, here's all I've done. Automation wire from this pipe and from this pipe, and I have another one here checking the heat of the items that are coming out of here. So if it's cooled off enough, it'll send it down to be shipped out of the cooling system, but otherwise it'll send the items through the cooling loop multiple times. And this is by far the most efficient system I've found for cooling down items. Like, I did research on it, and apparently this is the only system that actually works pretty efficiently, creating a cooling loop like this. It could be all metal tiles, it could be all water, but this seems to be the most effective. And this will erupt in another cycle, so it takes about a cycle per eruption. But we are producing copper now. We have 1.5 tons of it right now, and we'll be able to produce loads more. But now we have an infinite source of copper and another form of power, because we're using the heat from this to power this thing. And I threw some 10 ship plates in here since I had a shit ton of steel. Okay. I'm gonna pause for a second. Alright guys, I went ahead and moved my natural gas generators up here closer to the cooling loop. Reset it up, fill it up with some hydrogen, since I got sparing amounts of that. And then I rehooked everything back up. It's still going to prioritize this over that, but this is now being pulled down. As you can see, it's going to stay about a 60-degree mark, just like everything else. I had to pump in more water. Thankfully, I've already got a line hooked up, so that way if it's not full, it will fill it up. And I've already refilled it up, made sure there's plenty in it, so that way it can maintain the temperature properly. Now the natural gas generators won't overheat, which is muy bueno. Okay, so looks like the coal generators ended up having to pick up the pace. Not a fan of that. Okay, everything else seems to be running fine. Our coal resources though are at 50 tons, and I have not done any mining recently. Ooh, guess I used a little too much hydrogen. Oh well. Not that big a deal. We'll make more. It's probably because this went dormant. Yeah, it's dormant. Okay. Our base is getting more and more advanced every episode, guys. Now we have a unlimited supply of copper. As long as this all stays functioning properly. I'm quite proud of this design. Just look at that. It picks it up before it even hits the ground, guys. That is freaking sick. Like, it just straight up picks it up, pulls it down, sends it out. And if we take a look here, that copper is not only below 75 degrees, that copper is 12 degrees. That copper is cold. We got over a ton just sitting right here. That is awesome. We should probably start making things out of copper. Oh, that is so cool. Well, we have unlimited copper now, and another source of power once this thing gets hot enough, which it will pretty quick. Pretty soon, actually. 255. It is about to be hot enough for this thing to kick in. 1 degree short. Come on. Give us some more. Ah, there it comes. Yeah. What kind of sensor? We could probably put a thermo sensor and hook it up to this guy to prevent it from working until it gets like 300 degrees. It's only producing 250 watts, which is less than a kilowatt. But again, it's unlimited power, so. You'd think there'd be a lot more heat. Okay, this did not go out like I was hoping it would, which is kind of upsetting. I'll have to play with this design a little bit. Because with this current setup, it's only going to send small packets across. And that's not going to have a whole lot of cooling power. Don't know. But we tamed a copper volcano, though. Well, it cools it down really fast though, because it was at 100 degrees and it's already back down to 36. Thankfully, hydrogen conducts heat really, really well. What temperature is it coming out at over here? It starts out at 5 degrees. Ends up at 7. That ain't too bad. So it goes up 2 degrees. So it's just got to cool it back down 2 degrees before it can send it back out. All while keeping this thing well below the 5,000 degree mark that this thing spits out. I'd say this is a pretty successful design, guys. I'm going to go over each overlay here. Automation, not a whole lot to that. Insulated pipes. Anything below this pipe is part of different systems. Copper out, and it is 13 degrees. That is freaking crazy. Jeez. That is awesome. One loop and it's already cooled down enough to spit it out. What are we up to? 2.5 tons already? Oh. This is unbelievably sick, dude. But we do have more steam now, which is awesome. What's the temperature at? 14 degrees. Awesome. Love that, too. This entire loop turned out great. This is a very complicated setup, though, so if I'm going to duplicate it, it's not going to be super easy. But anything that produces heat, we can produce power from. But the problem is we're using more power than we're producing. Because this uses 1200 on its power. And this thing is not full efficiency. So. What is... How much steam is in here? 767. Yeah, I think it's just the temperature. The temperature is still rising though. Because this thing said 257, now it's at 265. So it is rising, so maybe this will start producing more power. It is, actually. It said 240 something, now it's at 280. So as this gets hotter, this will start producing more power. I think it has the potential to produce up to like 800, yeah, 850 at max efficiency. So once it reaches that point, we'll be set. So while this copper volcano is active, we'll be not only getting free cold copper, we'll also be getting power. So I call it a win-win. Guys, I'm honestly pretty proud of that. Because this is a design I had to come up with by myself. I had to figure out how to cool down the atoms, so I looked it up. I'm quite proud of this design, to be honest. Now if I just forward it somewhere else, which I easily could do, all I'd have to do is just run the chute over here on top of one of these vents, and then I'd have the copper going straight into the base. I may end up setting that up at some point. Our water reserves are starting to dwindle. That's okay though. Polluted water. Oh, I should probably put that back on. I do have a lot of plants that rely on polluted water. Specifically these. There we go. Now it's hydrating these guys. Take a quick look. Yep. And it's pumping the rest down into the loop. Which thankfully this loop was already pretty full as it was, so. And our food is up to 160,000, so we're still doing good there. Yeah, 107,000 kilocalories of stuffed berries, which I freaking love. Stuffed berries has a +4 morale, so my duplicates are getting super happy, and they get nice, cool oxygen. The entire base is at about 70 degrees. Guys, not to toot my own horn, but this is by far my best playthrough so far. We might actually be able to do everything in this pack. I might see about setting up another aqua tuner just for cooling this liquid down, though. I don't know yet. Take a look, see how much we've got. This thing runs non-stop. Oh, actually, it's catching up on this side. The steam side, not so much. It's stopping right here. But once it catches up on that side, it'll start using this side, and it'll eventually get caught up. We have loads of water, it just takes forever to cool it down. Back to the current temperature is at, 107, and it's got to get it down to, what? 60. That's what, 68 up here. Guys, you have no idea how excited I am about this playthrough. This playthrough is going exceptionally well. I'd probably set up a rock crusher. Oh wait, I do have a rock crusher. It's not turned on. Not that I'm needing to produce steel. I've got so much of it and I end up recycling it so much. I guess in the next episode the goal just to be to start cleaning up, breaking things down, maybe work. We should probably get more power generation because these cooling units use more power than they produce. So we gotta have a way to supply that, because the steam turbine is not even producing enough power to run the aqua tuner even at max efficiency. That's something I might want to look into. Granted, I could set up multiple steam turbines for one aqua tuner, because I think you can run like 20 freaking steam turbines just with a single aqua tuner if you have temperature breaks down. This guy is constantly running it at 850 watts. Like this alone, I could just expand this whole setup. It would work. It is staying really hot though. Which is not my idea of a good plan. Are we running low on power? There's a pipe blocking. Yeah, we're running low on power. Shit. Probably because we're out of hydrogen. Yeah, we're out of hydrogen, and even with these guys running, we're not keeping up anymore. Shit, we need more power! Just when you think you got all the power situation figured out, you throw something else at you. Alright, so I guess next episode will be all about us setting up the geothermal generators using magma. What we should do, because that would give us an endless power source. Well, I wouldn't say endless, but nearly endless. You can also look into setting up petroleum generators as well. So what I plan on doing is I plan on smushing down a lot of this magma to where it's nice and compressed. Thankfully, it's all pretty level, so that shouldn't be too difficult to do. One thing we need to do for sure is level it, so that way we can start working on. Getting all this fluid pumped out. And leveling it would make that a whole lot easier. I need to figure out where the highest point on the magma is. Zoom out a little bit. Like, looks like it's here. Yeah, it looks like this is the highest point right here. Just to be safe. Wait for it. Stop. There's one piece of magma there, but that ain't gonna count. Scroll out. Go level with it. Go level with it. Going eventually. Okay, no, this is definitely the highest point. So right up here is the highest point. So what we'd end up doing is we'd use air tiles. We can make them out of steel since we have so much freaking steel. And we dig down just far enough to where we can get to that corner-wise. We'd start basically leveling this out. We push it down, and then we dig out around it, push it down, dig around it, push it down, dig around it. But before we do that, we want to get a lot of this fluid out, because otherwise the crude oil is going to end up turning into petroleum, creating a gas that's not fun to play with. So yeah, it looks like that's going to be the next episode, working on the magma. Our base is pretty self-sustaining, aside from, you know, not having quite enough power. How long until that hydrogen comes back online? Oh, 50 cycles, so it'll be cycle 550 before it comes back online. So we're gonna have to. It's gonna be a race against the clock. Dang. Okay. Why are these not running? Base is clearly not producing enough power, but yet these are not running. Oh, that might do it. Let's get them to get that operation marked. I don't know how that happened. Can you explain why they're not running though? Somebody can come over and build that today. Thank you. There we go. Now we're getting power. Those natural gas generators will really kick in here. And we're keeping up now over here. 4 kilojoules, 4 kilojoules. And dropping that. Okay, no. Looks like the natural gas generator is not running, was the main kicker. Okay, so it looks like we're good for a while. But yes, it's dormant too for the next 50 seconds. I'm going to run out of natural gas long before I get this set up. What we'll probably do is once we get it down to a level that I agree with, which will probably be about half of the way down one of these mountains, Anyway, I'm just going to do some planning off camera. I got about an hour before I'm supposed to go to bed, so I'll probably just do another episode after this. You guys won't see it for another 3 or 4 days. But guys, that's going to have to do it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell down below to let you know when I upload videos to YouTube. Be sure to leave a comment down below if there's anything you guys want to see in the future. Or if you just want to say hi, I'm good with that too. Man, our base is looking sexy. Yeah, once we get the magma generation going to where that's our primary source of power, we're going to start digging out everything, cleaning everything out, gathering all these resources and getting them to a centralized finite location. And then I'm going to temperature control all of the items that I got, so that way it cools them down, especially the items that we get down here, because these items are going to be really freaking hot. So no. But anyway, guys, that's going to have to do it for me, so I will see all of your beautiful faces in the next video. Bye, guys!